Hey friends, I promised that I was going to do a rose update, and I am going to do a rose update. However, it occurred to me as I was putting some of my notes together for these videos that it has actually been only 3 years somehow since I started growing roses, let alone roses in containers, and I've technically only had 2 casualties, which isn't too bad, all things considered. And I thought that was really cool, and I would share that timeline with you while we're going over things. But I just wanted to kind of start this video off saying, like, you don't have to be a pro to grow roses, let alone roses in containers. All of my roses are in containers, specifically the Earthbox root and veg container. All of my roses are also younger, younger roses, so they are less than a couple of years old. So maybe someday they need to be transplanted into the ground, but right now I don't think we're there yet. They're doing great. There's plenty of room from what I can tell looking at them, and from the research I read online, it sounds like they could be good for a couple more years as long as they're getting plenty of water and nutrients and fertilizer and all that good stuff. So we'll take a look at them, but I'm gonna try to give you the quick rundown, and then while we're looking at what they look like right now, I'm going to try to put overlays on so you could see how much we cut them back, because right now it's the middle of April and the middle of February. So 2 months ago, my husband was kind enough to prune them all really hard for me, and we put some fertilizer in them, and yeah, just kind of let them do their thing. And so after pruning 2 months, not bad. And all of the roses at this point are at least a year, although at the time they were, some of them were like just barely a year old. So they got their first, some of them it was their very first pruning ever. Some of them had gotten it a year or two beforehand, but mostly these are baby roses for the most part. So let's go see how they're doing. So the first rose that we're going to cover is our Granada Rose, and I'm going to stay here under the shade because it's in the mid 80s and my phone will overheat if I'm out here too long recording. But unfortunately there are no blooms on it today, but that's fine. There was some beautiful blooms on it a few days ago, and this rose has been moved around a few times, but we picked it up in June 2020, and my husband recently moved it over here for me because I think this might be a more ideal location for it. But it's been doing really good, so it's coming up on 2 years here, and got a nice good prune, and it's growing back. You can tell by all the red, and paired with it is some green onions, which are getting a bit overbearing. There's some milkweed in there, and then let's see if I left the tag on this. I can't remember what these are, but they have nice little blooms, but it's kind of a waxy plant. I can't remember. Next time it blooms, I'll definitely take a picture. So we're moving from over here to over here, and this is currently my pride and joy right now. This is our Dark Desire, and if we can just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blooms on it. And guys, this is a plant that I got from Heirloom Roses. It's called Dark Desire, and it was purchased and planted in December 2020, so it is just barely over a year old. It got its first prune, and it's doing really well. I mean, look at all the blooms. I mean, it's doing great. And these are a beautiful cut species. They don't have a huge fragrance to them, but I mean, does it matter? They look that pretty. I also have it in a container with this, and I can't remember the name of this thing, but it's a very aggressive grower, but it's in here, and it's kind of a nice speller and thriller to go with it. And I have found that this variety, which was not from our local nursery, like the Granada and some of the others, those were from a local nursery that has rootstock meant for Florida. But you can see it's also in an Earthbox root and veg container. It's doing really good. These are very prickly, I will say that. So if you're worried about thorns, might not be the best variety. The next rose on our list, you can't really tell, it's got trimmed back really hard, and we also just picked some beautiful roses off of there, but it's our Red Intuition, and debatably too full in here, but I know the roots aren't super deep on some of these plants, but we have the alyssum, some spiller, I can't remember what that stuff is, and some patience. But the Red Intuition is another variety that we got from a local nursery. So it's on a Florida friendly rootstock, and it was purchased the same time as the Granada, so June 2020. So coming up on 2 years. This is technically my second Red Intuition I had. I had another one, I killed it. I will say I love the flower. The smell is pretty neutral. It's not super overbearing, but it is probably the one that blooms the least, if that makes sense. And from what I'm told, it's a little bit of a more challenging one to grow, but I still love it because it's got a beautiful flower. But it's doing really well. It might not produce, 7 at a time or whatever, but when it does bloom, it's really, really pretty, and I like it, and that's all that matters. So we're gonna just pan out a little bit here because we got two right next to each other. And I just wanted you guys to see, they're all in my earth boxes, and they're doing really well. They all have the automatic watering system in them. So something like this, and I have a video on how I set it up, and I'm always happy to answer questions if you have it, but I don't water this. They're actually being watered as we speak, and that's pretty great. So the rose that started it all is this one right here, and it's my Double Delight. And believe it or not, I got this in January 2019. So somehow I've done all of this in a few years, but 3 years? It's 3 years old already, and it's doing really well. It had 5 or 6 blooms on it last week, and they were incredible. And this was the one that I got from Home Depot that started all of this, and it has beautiful blooms, beautiful potent fragrance, and it's just my absolute favorite. And yeah, I highly recommend it. The one next to it, you can tell there's just a few little leaves left. That is my Mr. Lincoln, which was an impulse buy locally at my local nursery, Nelson's, but absolutely love it. It is a standout rose. It has a pretty good fragrance, I would say more than the Dark Desire, but not quite as much as the Double Delight. And that Mr. Lincoln is only a little over a year, and it blooms pretty well. And all of these so far, except for the Granada, are roses that you can cut and bring in. We're going to go over here in a second. I'll go up close, but I just wanted to give you the rundown before we get over there while I'm still in the shade. This one here is our Portlandia, and it was purchased in December 2020, so it's only about a year old. And this was another one that I got from Heirloom Roses. You guys could go back and watch the unboxing if you wanted, or the December update. But those have had really beautiful little blooms, like maybe like this big. And I'm not sure that they would do well being picked necessarily. I haven't really tried too often. They're cute and compact, but they're just really pretty, and they smell delicious, so I let them stay out here. That one has been an odd plant in general to grow because it's growing a lot of canes in all sorts of different directions. And last year we were trying to troubleshoot it because it was growing on an angle. Anyways, when my husband trimmed it and pruned it, we're hoping it will reset it and let it grow upwards, and it seems to be doing that. And we'll come over and get a close-up on it. There's some pentas growing with it. But the one at the end, I'm super excited about. That's my last one, also a Joseph's coat from Heirloom Roses. And that's my climbing rose. And this poor thing has been moved around several times, but I think it's going to do really well in that location. That's where the Granada Rose used to be. But the reason I have it over there is because, I don't know, I'm sure you guys can tell, there's all this vine that came down from our neighbor's tree, and it's very aggressive, and it pulls on all the plants. So I thought I will put the climbing rose there, so maybe they can kind of help each other. Hopefully the vine won't go down into the rose, but we'll do what we can. But the blooms on it have started coming in, and they really do everything they say they're going to do, but they change color every day. It's just been awesome. So let's go get up close. So we have some milkweed, some pentas in the Portlandia bush, but it's about this tall. So I don't know, 4 or 5 feet at least. And the canes on this one are a lot more unique than the others. I don't know if you could tell, but they're more independent. They're not like one big cane and then a lot of little stuff coming out of them. But they're doing really good, and we haven't really had blooms yet this year since the pruning, but there's been a huge amount of growth since the pruning, so I know it's coming. And then we have some gold dust spiller in here with the Joseph's coat, and it's beautiful, and of course the milkweed and the natural weeds. But these are not meant for picking, but I love that they grow in clusters, and every day you can come out, and sometimes you can come out in the morning and the evening, and the Joseph's coat are going to be a different color than they were that morning when you saw them, or that evening the night before. So really, really, really happy to see them over here, and hopefully we'll continue to do well. But yeah, I'm very lucky to have I guess we're up to 7 roses now, and thriving and surviving, I think. And yeah, I just wanted to show you guys that it is possible as a renter to have container gardens that have beautiful things like roses in it. And even if you're not a renter and you're just not sure what you want to do, containers are very possible. Okay friends, my phone's starting to overheat, so that concludes our rose update tour for 2021. They are doing spectacular, and I try to share the blooms on Instagram, so if you're needing some extra pretty things in your feed, make sure to check out Gardening with Alessandra on Instagram, and of course our Fluffy Wally for Moose and Wally updates. Okay friends, until next time, bye!